Okay, now I think we'll get this correct this time. Can we all see the screen okay?
Yep.
Welcome to the
There we
HDSA
go.
Beginner's Guide to Playing Fantasy Football. My name is Peter Martinek Jenny, and I am a big Huntington's Disease Society of America supporter and advocate in Greensboro, North Carolina. I've been playing fantasy football for a long time and love almost every minute of it. It's a great distraction and something to look forward to each weekend during the season. To quickly summarize fantasy football, you draft a team of players. Those players play in the real NFL games on the weekends, and you earn points based on their statistics for that week's games. You go head to head with another team in your league, and whoever has the most points at the end of the week wins that matchup. Your team accumulates a record during the first 14 weeks of the NFL season, and the best teams advance to the fantasy football playoffs during the NFL's last 4 weeks of the regular season. There's a lot of strategy, but also a lot of luck that plays into your fantasy football success. Are you ready to play? First thing you must do, and some of you may have already done this, is make that $25 donation to HDSA. Likely most of you have already done this, and once you have made that donation, HDSA will send you a link to join the Fantasy Football League. In order to join the HDSA Fantasy Football League, you must first create an ESPN account. The easiest way to do that is to visit www.espn.com and click on the person icon in the upper right-hand corner. Then you click the blue sign up button to create a new account or log in to enter your credentials if you have already created an ESPN account. Once your ESPN account is all set up, then click on the invitation link in the email that you received from HDSA. This link will take you directly to the Join This League page. Simply click on Join This League and you are in. Clicking Join This League will take you directly to your team page. But in the future, you will find your team in the drop down at the top right-hand corner of the ESPN homepage. Simply click that drop down and click on your team, and it'll take you right to your team page. Once you click on your team from that drop down, it'll take you to your team page where you can see a variety of things, including the countdown to your league's fantasy draft, which will be on September 5th at 9:00 p.m. Mark your calendars. More about the draft later. But on your team page, you can click the team settings and create a new team name. Be creative with it if you want, and even change the logo for your team if you wish. Your next step will be to learn about the league settings and the scoring rules. This is very important. You will want to pay attention to this because the scoring rules may influence how you draft your team on draft night. Your HDSA league is a 10-team head-to-head PPR league. Now that's a whole mouthful there. This means that there are 9 other teams that you'll be playing against head-to-head each week. PPR stands for points per reception, which means your players earn an additional point for every reception they make. This puts a little more value on those pass catchers. When you click settings, it will take you to this page, which highlights a variety of things, including how many points each player will earn for rushing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, extra points, and field goals. There are point deductions for things like fumbles, interceptions, missed field goals, and points allowed for defensive special teams, or DST play. During the draft, each of you will select a defensive special teams unit. Each week, this slot on your roster will accumulate points for defensive categories like interceptions, sacks, safeties, and defensive touchdowns. But this team's special teams unit will also earn you points for any kickoffs or punts returned all the way for a touchdown. Check out the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett is bound to put up some fantasy points for you. If you prefer to use your mobile device for playing fantasy football, and I would highly recommend it, just download the ESPN Fantasy app. You will log into the app using your ESPN account credentials and then have easy access to your fantasy football team at all hours of the day to keep up with all your roster moves, head-to-head matchups, and scoring on the weekends. Once you have all these preliminary things settled, then it's time to prepare for your fantasy draft. There are many different ways to approach a fantasy draft. You could do some research. There are entire books dedicated to fantasy football strategy, magazines with all the current season's fantasy football predictions, and lots of podcasts and media outlets that dedicate hours and hours a day at this time of the year to discussing fantasy football. There's the casual fans team affiliation option where you can pick some of your favorite players because you'll be watching them on Sundays anyways. And then there's auto draft. You could skip the draft and let auto draft pick your team for you. ESPN ranks every player at every position on their website. All of this information will be available to you on draft day on your screen in the draft room. But AutoDraft will pick the highest ranked player available when it is your turn to draft if you are not there or do not choose a player to draft. This takes a little bit of the strategy out of it, but I've also seen auto-drafted teams do really well in the past. Whatever you choose to do, be ready on draft night, which is September 5th at 9 p.m. Eastern. There's one other option, and that's to practice drafting in a mock draft. This will give you some experience with the platform and how the draft operates. Simply click on the fantasy football icon at the top left of the page and then click on the mock draft lobby. This will take you to a page with hundreds of mock draft options that begin practically every 5 minutes of the day. To get the most authentic experience for this HDSA league, look for a 10-team head-to-head PPR snake draft. There's a lot of lingo here, but a snake draft is basically the order that you will be picking on draft night. Teams will be randomly selected to pick an order from 1 to 10. This happens about 90 minutes prior to the actual draft. So right now you don't know where you're going to be drafting. But once the first 10 picks are made, then the second round goes in reverse order. So the number 10 pick will actually have picks 10 and 11. This is where the snake part comes in. It wraps around for each successive round. The number 1 pick will have the 20th pick in the second round and the 21st pick, which is in the third round, back to back. There's lots of strategy surrounding where you pick. See what you can discover in some mock drafts. But on draft night or during your mock drafts, this is what you will see. The clock is at the top left. This will let you know how much time is left for the person getting ready to draft. Our league is scheduled for 60 seconds per pick, or 1 minute. The picks are scheduled across the top, and all of the players that are available will be below. The players are ranked according to the ESPN rankings. So you can see on this screen that Justin Jefferson is the number 1 ranked player in the entire NFL according to ESPN's rankings. You can also sort players by position. For example, if you wanted to see only all the running backs available, you can choose this from the drop down at the top. You can also look for players available from a certain team if that helps you find who you want to draft. If there are certain players that you really want to go after, you can add them to your queue by clicking on the queue button next to their name. Then when it is your turn to draft, those queued up players will be right there at your fingertips. They will also then be removed from your queue if somebody else drafts them. As you draft your team, it will be assembled on the left side of this screen, and you will notice there's a maximum number of each position that you are allowed to draft. You can only draft 4 quarterbacks, but you only really need 1 to play every week. You can only draft 8 running backs, but you would not want to have 8 running backs on your roster because you need to fill out the rest of your positions. etc. When your team is on the clock, you will hear the famous ESPN sound. Da-na-na, da-na-na. That will be played to alert you that you are up and you have 60 seconds to make your selection. Don't forget about the drop downs for position sorting. Don't forget about any players you may have put in the queue. When you have your guy ready to go, click the draft button and he is all yours, and he'll be dropped into your roster on the left side of the screen. Once your entire team is drafted, then you can look ahead to your week 1 matchup. You can see what each of your players is projected for their points for that week. You can shift players from your bench to your starting lineup if you think they will play better. You will also want to look for anyone who has projected 0 points and make sure you sub them out. This could be because they are injured or their NFL team has a bye that week and are not playing. Don't worry, you do have some options if your players get injured or lose favor on their NFL team, or you simply just want to get rid of them. Any player that is not on a fantasy league team is considered a free agent. You'll be able to search free agents, and before games that week, you can add them to your roster. You just have to make sure you drop another player so you have the same number of players on your roster. Once a player's game has started for the week, you can no longer add him as a free agent. They then join the waiver wire list. You can claim a player, and there is a designated waiver wire order each week that will allow you to claim available players. Okay, that was a lot of information in a short amount of time. One of the best suggestions I can give you would be for you to get on the ESPN Fantasy Football site and start clicking around. There's a lot of information in the frequently asked question pages and links to information about the platform. I will also be available to answer questions if you get to a certain point and don't know what to do next. My email address is right here. Good luck and try and have some fun and enjoy your fantasy football season. And oh yeah, go Browns.
Thank
I
you,
just,
Peter.
yeah, I love
Um,
his shirt every single time something the screen changed. That was fantastic.
so I can cover a couple of draft strategies that'll help you and kind of show you where you would like to go to set up your draft strategy in the ESPN League before the draft. So, so this is ESPN Fantasy Football Draft Kit, and you can kind of see by each round around the average players that will be drafted. So you can look, and because it's reception, PPR, so points per reception, you can see in the first few rounds, it's a lot of wide receivers and running backs. So you want to kind of pick out your favorite running backs and wide receivers and put them high in your draft strategy because they will get you the most points. And then you can see a lot of people don't start getting quarterbacks until around round 3, and some don't even draft until round 13. So you want to focus on those people who will get you the most points, which are wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. And so have those set as your favorite. And then when you're in the draft room, like Peter said, you're going to want to use your queue to set up your favorite players. And a lot of times, right before your draft, you may see that the next player you want to get will get drafted right before your pick. So be sure to have a couple in mind to draft right before you get to your pick. So when you're in your page and you can see your team, you can go to click on your league, which is right below your name. And then it'll show you when the draft is, which is 12 days away. So you can go and go into your draft strategy. And then you can pick your favorite players. So we can get the Atlanta running back. He may be our number 1 guy. We'll put him on our list. We want Devontae Smith, a former Alabama wide receiver. We'll take him. And so, yeah, just go in and set up your favorite players, put them in your queue, and you will start drafting. And then I can send this cheat sheet for everybody to use when they are starting to look at draft picks. So you can get an idea of how other people have drafted and kind of the importance on who to draft first. And then there's an article that's pretty good to read. They say that don't be scared about getting running backs early. And they list a couple here for you. Bijan Robinson from the Atlanta Falcons may be a good pick because they like to run the ball a lot. Christian McCaffrey, if he stays healthy, he may be a good pick. And then it'll kind of give you a ranking of all the position players down here. All right. So does anybody have any questions?
No, I think that's great. And Angie, thank you so much for joining us. And we are also going to get the video of this out for everybody so we can all have some fun with fantasy football this year. And thank you guys for your time this evening. And go Vikings, I think. Not Browns?
Yeah, I liked his outfit changes.
I know, that was fantastic, actually. That was pretty funny. And also a North Carolina guy is a Ohio fan. That's interesting.
So.
I'm more of a Green Bay fan.
That is
Green Bay.
blasphemy to a Vikings fan, Angie.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just teasing. It is. I think they're pretty strong rivals. I have a daughter who's in school in Wisconsin, so we have lots of
Wow.
Wisconsin and Minnesota rivals here. So
my daughter, my youngest daughter's father went to Wisconsin University with JJ at the same time.
oh, really?
He
Fun.
graduated when JJ got drafted to the Texans,
Oh, very cool.
and they used to hang out and go to the, he used to go to the game every week, and it was like a big deal on campus.
Yep. They take their football pretty seriously in Wisconsin. So
They take their drinking Wisconsin seriously.
they do. Yeah. And their cheese. Those are kind of the three things Wisconsin tends to be known for. We're good neighbors with Wisconsin. So.
Yes. That's funny.
Yep. Awesome.
All right.
Well,
Thank you so
have a
much
great
for y'all
evening,
help.
everybody. And I look forward to a really fun fantasy football season.
Yeah.
Gonna be lots of homework, but fun.
Yes, a little bit of each. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you again.
Bye.